Welcome back, high-stakes players. Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst. We're going to talk about the big three wide receivers. I'm not sure it's right to call them that. I think it is. But we'll figure out what order is the right order for Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase, which is right there. Like, why did I put them in that order? I don't know. Some tough teams to figure out as we're getting into football, guys, closing in on June here. Some of the more obvious, maybe, we'll see. Mine will be obvious. Adam could be, just way sharper on this. And any team could be tough to figure out. We'll see. A quick update on Best-Ball Mania 3 on UnderDog, which is such a massive tournament. And I brought the wheel. So thanks for sitting down with us on this Tuesday night, May 24th. Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst. This is The Deep End. I just got to do it. And there's no pressure on you. And you and I did not discuss this before. But as you know, there was a mass shooting in Texas today at an elementary school. We both have young children, as many of you do. I mean, we've either been kids or are raising kids, and it's just unconscionable. But it's also, unfortunately, a more and more sort of regular part of life in America, which makes no sense, but it is. I do sports radio in Buffalo every afternoon, and then twice a week I come and join Adam. And sometimes you're just talking about sports and an event like this happens and you go, what am I doing here? I mean, I'm talking about whether Jordan Poyer should be in minicamp. And literally everything we do seems so trivial. So the instinct, and on this show too, and I know you didn't tune in for this, the instinct is to say nothing, but it just doesn't feel right. You know, Adam, I mean, saying too many people too often saying nothing, that has contributed to the state we're in. And so I just want to say, like everybody, what an awful, just appalling event this is, and tragedy. Everything sounds trite. We're here to talk fantasy football, the ultimate pleasure cruise, but just so sad for those people, Adam, for all of us in a way.
Yeah, it's my wife was on the couch tonight, just like, scrolling through it and just, with like tears in her eyes. She's like, this is like our worst nightmare. As a parent, it's your absolute worst nightmare. And obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to them. And I just remember as a kid, I don't remember how old I was, but when the Columbine incident happened, I remember being like, that was like the first of its kind, at least that I could remember or whatever. And being glued to the TV. And it was such like a huge deal. And it obviously is, but like now I feel like this stuff happens, like you said, I'm in Rochester, you're right down the road in Buffalo. And that thing that happened last week at the Tops there, it's like, feel like it's just all the time now. So, I try not to become numb to it, obviously, but it's just so gross.
Social media brings that home, and sometimes it is home, as was the case here last week. Makes it feel more intense, more close or closer, and that's very scary. But to ignore it has consequences too, to detach, and that feels wrong. Everything feels wrong. 300,000 Americans have lived with, faced, been involved in one form or another, dealt with school shootings, and that's just appalling and very sad. So we won't, unless you want to, because it certainly seems appropriate, talk more about that tonight. But we're all thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I am okay to move on from that, because it's so fresh too. Like, I don't even know what to say other than like, we're praying and thinking about them, but it's just, I have a 4-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy and a 10-year-old boy. It's like, it's just your worst nightmare.
My kids are 12 and 10. Our kids have not met.
That's awful.
What is that going to change? The pool is open. Draft Sharks on the deck, July 22nd.
I'm ready. But
are the kids more half-point PPR players, best ball? What kind of league? Because if they're here, they're involved.
It's a divide and conquer. I don't know what that's a Terminator league is what that is. Like you're just or a survivor pool. You're just trying to survive. I just want to, are the kids invited on the 22nd? I thought, is that a Draft Sharks only thing?
I think they are now.
No, there we go. Kids pack.
I've never met your wife or your family.
I know.
And I know that's how you want it. Hopefully the whole Draft Sharks team comes over, and if the more that do, at least in terms of the staff, right, the better it is. We'll have a chance to do something outrageous draft wise that we can stream and share that Friday.
Absolutely.
As for tonight, so between us, Adam was like, "Oh, I really wish Dynasty. We do Dynasty shows on Thursdays." And he's like, "Oh, I really wish it were Thursday for the Dynasty League." I'm like, "How much do you pay to be in this Dynasty League?" It's like $750. I'm like, "That is so high stakes." So let me hear about your situation or your angst, whatever.
It's the deep end. Yeah, that's right. So we started talking about this on the Dynasty pod last Thursday, how I traded up for Josh Allen to 101.
Yes.
And this draft went slow. I mean, it started like Thursday morning, and by like Sunday morning, we were like 9 picks in. It was gross, but it finally started to pick up a little bit here. And so I'm going to pull up the board because I've been moving and shaking in this one. And so it's hard to tell because obviously these players, it's not the same teams that these players are going to. And so I traded up to the 101. I took Josh Allen, obviously super flex, tight end premium. This is the RotoViz Triflex Dynasty. So you have to start 3 receivers. And then there's also a super flex and then 2 other flex spots. So you can start up to 6 receivers or whatever. So 101 went Josh Allen. I traded my 2nd round pick in part of a deal to get Josh Allen. So on the clock at 3, I think it was on the clock at 3-7, and I made another trade to get the 303 when I saw Higgins fall there. So T Higgins is mine. So I went Josh Allen, got me some T Higgins. Then I was on the clock again at my normal pick, and I went DeAndre Swift. And I was torn between Swift and Stephon Diggs because I really wanted to get that Diggs stack with Josh Allen, and I really like that. I think they're both very comparable there, but I'm like, you know what? If I can get that one running back, and he was kind of the end of that tier for the running backs for me. He's only 23. He should be good. Ascending offense. Really good offensive line, skill guys everywhere. So I like it Swift there in Dynasty. And then Stephon Diggs was still there at 310. I'm like, well, I can't just, I gotta have Stephon Diggs. So I traded up again. This is with Mike Leone. I traded up with.
Oh, you're the Saints.
Huh?
You're the Saints with all these trades up.
That's right. Listen, these guys, I know they're good. Okay. Let me move up. Like you said, Mike, you know why this draft took so long? Everyone's trying to trade back. Everyone wants to trade. If you want to give me your picks, I'll take them. Okay. I mean, look at Kenny Walker when I pick after Stephon Diggs. I mean, those guys aren't even on the same stratosphere when it comes to when it comes to just like value for me. So let me go get Stephon Diggs.
The reason I feel good right now is that if this league had cost you, say, $250, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Correct. Of course. So I still had my 4-4, and then I didn't have a 5 or a, because I traded my 5 and my 6, I think, to Leone to get his 3rd. So there's some other little small stuff in there. So then the 4th round comes around, and I'm looking, and the last quarterback in my tier is Derek Carr. I'm like, after Derek Carr, I'm just gonna. Well, I don't want to give all my strategy, but whatever. I'm just gonna wait on QB. I know it's super flex, but Derek Carr is my guy. Well, I tried like heck to trade with Parkania there at the 4-5, and he wouldn't do it. He wasn't having it. So I stayed put, and then at the 4-6, Devontae Adams is there, and Tyreek Hill. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do I take Adams? Do I take Hill? They're both in the same tier for me. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to trade with Leone again, and I'm going to get the pick after mine. So I got Devontae Adams, and I got Tyreek Hill. I'm done picking. I have no 1st round pick next year, Mike. I have no 2nd round pick next year.
Would you take 2nd place in this league right now?
Right now, sure, because anything can happen.
Oh, let me tell you something right now.
I think it's like $2,500 just a second. So sure, but
Without making any more moves for future picks, like just right
Right.
now, then you go
Right
into next
now.
year's draft. Okay.
yeah, I mean Devontae Adams is 29, Tyreek Hill's 28. We don't know if Treylon Burks or Jameson Williams are even good, and they're
Stephon Diggs is 28.
Stephon Diggs is 28. I mean, I feel like, and this is more of a dynasty conversation, but let me go back. I'll just pull up my team real quick so you can see that. So this is the roster so far. I mean, you can start up to 6 receivers. You know, it's best ball too, by the way, which not that matters for any of the trades that I made, but this is a start. Now, so we're in the 4th round. I have no 5th. I have no 6th. I have a 7th and an 8th, no 9th. And then I have the rest of my draft. No 1st next year, no 2nd next year. So this is where, like, I want, like, the value, like, how old do guys have to be before they're considered? Like Tyreek Hill, 28, Diggs, 28, Adams, 29, Higgins. I mean, Higgins is young, Swift's young, Allen's young. But I feel like these guys are being like left for dead when you look at do I have the board? No, I don't have the board again. But when you look at the guys being taken around them, Jameson Williams, Treylon Burks, Drake London at the 2-3 turn,
Well,
Kenny Walker at the 3-11. Like, I don't know, man. These guys, you're 28. That doesn't mean you're dead.
You're mining a certain area in these receivers, and I'm not speaking for you, but I feel like, especially, well, actually with all of them, if you get 3 more top 1 or 2 more top 12 years, then another top 24 year out of each of them, you didn't fail when they're all 31, and that's okay. It's a little bit like running back. What you're not doing, of course, I mean, Higgins notwithstanding, you're not drafting the young receivers that you can sort of almost assume will last you a decade. CeeDee Lamb and Chase and Jefferson and those guys. So it's interesting. You're kind of doing an alternate version of what I think a more common play here in these is, which is running back. Because right now, as we've talked about a lot on both shows, there's a point in time we're at where 6 to 8 running backs that are nice value are 26, 27 years old, and you would love to get 3 more good years out of them. And if you look at that board again, you talk about these guys being left for dead. None of them has been picked. Cook, Kamara, Elliott,
Right.
I mean, Fournette even. None of those guys has been picked. So what maybe Mike Leone is doing is thinking he can outfox you and draft those running backs and still win now and give himself, you know, you can draft younger receivers that are not on the highest profile level and give himself a chance of having a longer term build. You and I are in a dynasty league with Mike separately. And, you know, he is definitely going for young receivers. And if I did a startup tonight, that's all I'd be interested in is, and I'm older than you, is those young receivers that, you know, can really just sort of, you can, I think, almost pen them in for great years for a long time. Almost.
Yeah. And I think, but there's only so many, like Higgins, I think is one of those guys, 23. There's only so many. I mean, there, like you said, there's Chase, there's Jefferson, there's CeeDee Lamb. And then, you know, you could have put Jalen Waddle in that if Tyreek Hill didn't go there this year. Like, I feel like you know, we're so obsessed with, especially with running backs, with the age and the cliffs, and this 28 is their prime. Now, like you said, I'm going to have to be very careful. You know, it's a very thin line between 28 and falling off of a cliff. But I think they've got 2, like you said, 2 years left where they're going to be really, really good. You know, Adams attached to a good quarterback, Diggs attached to a great quarterback, Higgins attached to a great you know, so I think there's a chance if I cash once or twice or whatever, I can buy myself some time, and I have to just be ready to make that trade. Maybe even not this year, but the following year, maybe one of those stud receivers I trade to get younger. And, you know, that's where, and I would show, I don't want to show Mike Leone's lineup because, you know, it's, you know, we're still in the draft and whatever.
Because he's sitting right here.
It's not kosher. Right. But he's going with that. He's going with what you said. He's drafting for the future, getting younger, all the amassing tons of draft picks. But that's his style. I don't feel comfortable doing that, and I don't find that very entertaining.
Well, you have another year here. Like overall, this year's draft class was not very well received, but you had 6 receivers picked in the first round. You have the guys I mentioned, the big ones at the top, Chase, Jefferson, Lamb. You have A.J. Brown. You have Debo. Metcalf is young, and this year's guys. So there are plenty to pick from. I'll be interested in seeing how that turns out. Speaking of wide receiver,
Oh yeah.
in the Football Guys Championship, which has started, and I suppose even in best ball leagues, you have the same 3 wide receivers going as the top 3 almost always, alphabetically. Yeah. Chase, Jefferson, Kupp.
Yes.
Is there one of the 3 that belongs on a different tier, above or below the other 2 for you?
So it's hard, right? Because this time of year, we're if we're drafting this time of year, we're volume based drafting, and you're mixing and matching, right? You're taking them here and there, but the one I've seen going high the most is Cooper Kupp, and right behind him has been Justin Jefferson. Now, I think that, and we had this discussion maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago about why isn't Cooper Kupp the 101. And he certainly could be. I just don't see a reason other than natural regression why Cooper Kupp wouldn't be a step ahead of the other two receivers, Chase and Jefferson. And the only arguments that I've really heard have been on the Jefferson front, and it's been all the positive on Jefferson. I love Jefferson. He's a stud. Thielen's older. Everybody likes Jefferson, but I don't hear anyone really tearing down Cooper Kupp enough to the point where Jefferson can catch him. I mean, Cooper Kupp, we were talking a little bit, I think, on your thread this morning with Sigmund was on there and commenting, and a couple other people. And I think, they're talking about, well, how much do the Rams love Cam Akers and how much do they love Allen Robinson? Well, Odell was really good there last year, and Darrell Henderson was really good last year. And Sony Michel, when he played, was really good. Like, I don't think Akers or Robinson can be that much better than those guys where it would take away from Kupp. And even if it does, Kupp could lose 20% of what he had and still be the number 1 receiver. So I think that Kupp, if I was going to put someone a pedestal ahead, it would be Kupp, but I do certainly want to hedge it. I have enough drafts where I can, because of me, would be just straight up injury. Like, you never want more than a certain percentage of a guy, maybe 25%. It's hard to get that in the first round anyways, but
that's right. But if you're drafting 1 to 6, top 6, top half, you have a fair chance at one of them. Yeah. And a lot of the FFPC have done chase drops. You have a fair chance at one of them. And I almost always want one of them.
Yes.
It's Taylor, because you can't get Taylor any other way than picking at the beginning. And you can't really get Kupp or Jefferson, and then least so Chase. Well,
what do you think?
I agree with most of that, if not all of it. I mean, the distribution point, you want to be exposed to each. I've whined on this show about picking at the bottom, but I've done 2 best ball manias, and I've picked 3rd in each one. And Kupp, and then Jefferson. Yep. Chase is the guy I'm not sure I want to pick first of the 3 because of Higgins, because of Mixon, because of Cincinnati having won the AFC, and for most of the year being so run heavy. I mean, they had the perfect matchups, as it happens, late in the year for fantasy playoffs, and that's memorable. Their playoff games in terms of offense were not good at all. I mean, what is that saying? It's only saying what it's saying. But they played 4 postseason games. They were all field goal games, and none was one of those shootouts. Chase is fine. Higgins had a big play touchdown in the Super Bowl. I know. This is not a knock on Chase. You have to know. But Jefferson is my favorite. And really on Kupp, it's just not big, almost 29. And the Rams will want to be different. They want it, and McVay's whole thing is scheming, and Kupp is great. But yes, Robinson, and then maybe Beckham or even Van Jefferson. And I just do not see Cooper Kupp coming that close. You say the right point. If he's 20, 25% regression, that's a huge win, and that's true. But Jefferson is the hardest of the 3 for me to find a bad outcome for. because his team has not been great, but also not terrible. So they're not getting blown out all the time like a Jacksonville Allen Robinson or somebody. Super efficient, same quarterback. And if that offense is going to change, it's probably going to be a little bit less run dependent. So, and no new target rivalries on that roster. Jefferson is my favorite. In a vacuum, he's the one I want. But like you, I'm making sure I'm not just tied down to one of the three, if you're even lucky enough to be drafting top half most of the time.
Yeah, and I hear that. And to me, it's Cooper Kupp has had injuries in the past. I know a lot of guys get hurt and stuff, and he didn't like miss a snap last year. So like,
right.
I think that's going to catch up with him. I think Jefferson's much younger than he is, and I think there is a safety net there. Chase, people have been talking about, he was impossibly efficient last year. All of his touch. I think it read something where he had like more touchdowns than he had end zone targets or something. Like it was some crazy statistic that didn't make sense. But I also think too, like that offensive line's better. Like Chase could he get better as just a football player? He's a rookie. Like he might get bigger, faster, stronger, smarter another year with Burrow. I mean, they've been working together for so long anyways. They've had a couple of years together, but it's interesting too, is I haven't heard the case for Chase for number one, even, after the schedule came out, and we're looking at Bills week 17. We're looking at, what do they got? They got the Patriots. They got the Bucks. Like, a lot of teams at
tough
the end
second
of the
half.
Chiefs, but could be shootouts. Like you said, they didn't have playoff shootouts.
That's right.
But they had a big one against, was it the Chiefs in the regular season? I think at the end of the year.
And Baltimore the week before, and Baltimore twice. They scored 41 points each game. That will not happen again. I mean, they were just so unlucky with injuries. Yeah, that's right. It's not about quality of competition. I'm talking about their tough second half. It's Tennessee, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, all those teams, Buffalo. But that can be good for fantasy.
Right.
Of course.
So,
well, it's interesting. I mean, I did a Best-Ball Mania today, and it went Taylor Kupp. And so I had to make that choice. I do not want, especially in that tournament where it's 0.5, any running back before the third guy on that list. If I'm fourth and Jonathan Taylor is the first pick, I'm getting one of those three guys, and I love it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, you've done enough now, and this might change, but where's your sweet spot right now? You're not 12, obviously. Where's like the spot that you would want to be when you walk into a draft?
FFPC with the tight end point, I'm much more easygoing about that.
Okay.
And it's full point. So McCaffrey is fine. Eckler is fine. Kelsey and even Andrews is fine. Diggs is fine if I'm late. And you always, every year, you like that 9 to 12 for round two. There's a drop off at wide receiver, I think, that happens in about the middle of the second round in most drafts. So I'd almost prefer the back in those. In UnderDog, I mean, we did Superflex too, and that's a nightmare picking late. You just sort of, I feel like you're stuck with, you want to not walk on the high wire when it comes to quarterback, and you're picking two and make the rest work. So I don't really like that. But in UnderDog, I'm more inclined to want the early pick, and I'll do a couple more Best-Ball Manias. I want to talk about that. We'll do that now.
Sure, let's do it now.
So on Thursday, was it Thursday last week? When were we drafting one? Last Tuesday?
Last Tuesday. Yep. A week ago.
So you were drafting one, or we both were.
Yeah.
And Sean Stutzman from Go Bills commented, he's like, you got to get that week 17 correlation. And I think for the most part, I was like, yeah, okay. But, so even during that show and then absolutely after, I was like, wait, is that important? Is that something I should do? And this has happened to me a number of times in the young history of working with you. And I love it too, because, I feel like the best thing, almost the greatest joy in life, one of the greatest joys in life is like that discovery that can be sort of anything that can be a food, a plant, some sort of fact or some sort of new info, anything. I love it. It gives me great joy. So he goes, you really want to have that correlation. And then in the course of our conversation last week, I'm like, actually, the ones that are not obvious are the best ones. So I started to dive into more of that analysis. And of course, they all know that. And everybody's memorized or almost memorized week 17. So I did one this morning because I wanted to sort of test myself. I had 2 other pages open. I had the ADP that I wanted, and then I had, of course, the week 17 schedule.
Yeah.
And I drafted Jefferson at 3. And by the end of the second round, 210, I'm just hoping for Aaron Jones. Why? Because they play in week 17.
Yep.
So I get sniped on Aaron Jones. Green Bay never falls right. I had a tough time with stacks in this thing, probably because everybody is so focused on it. You have to be so different in this tournament with all the, 450,000 entries or whatever it is.
I know.
And so I got comfortable. My premier stack ended up being Cousins, Madison, Jefferson, and maybe that's it. I looked at Irv Smith, but thought I was overdoing it. I didn't get to Osborne. And so, okay, I get done. Those are fast, those drafts. And I'm like, okay, well, Minnesota. And I got Sammy Watkins. The best I could do with Green Bay was get Sammy Watkins. Right. And I'm like, all right, great. And then I look at the schedule one last time, and it's week 17 at Lambeau Field in January. I'm like, is there any way Minnesota is smashing at Lambeau Field in January? Green Bay is good. It's going to be negative degrees. Like, what did I just do? So I should have taken Falcons Cardinals in a dome or something. But, you can give yourself dozens of hacks at it if you can afford it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it now, and I think we got in a little Twitter conversation the day after the draft last week where people were talking about, they're target, like you said, Cardinals Falcons is kind of a one that, because you've got Rams Chargers, Bills Bengals are the ones that kind of everyone's shooting for, and you're like, well, if we're going to do this, shouldn't we be going after teams that aren't maybe doing that? So Falcons Cardinals is one people have been looking at. I know Saints Eagles could be another kind of a shootout, but again, I think that's in Philly. Whether or not might not be the best, but it's super fun to doing that stuff. I think it's important to stack those weeks. I'm wondering, is there a chance that like with 44,000 entries and only 18 rounds, like, is there any way that there's one person with this only lineup that wins it? Like they're going to have to chop, I'm assuming, right? I mean, how many, with so many people doing so many different teams, there can't be one unique team with 18 rounds only. It'd be
450,000 tems,
whatever it is. It's more than you can imagine. So there's no way. Is there anyone that's going to have a unique lineup? Maybe we'll see. But
Adam, I've been thinking the same way, and I've done 2. I think it's maybe 3, but one I put Tyrod Taylor on the bottom, or that was a
Super
FFPC league. No, just because I wanted a best ball league. I wanted to have somebody different at the bottom, and Tyrod Taylor, in case Daniel Jones they give up, right?
Yep.
And then this one I picked Dearness Johnson, who I really like for that point because I think he's good. Their team is built around the run, and if Chubb and Hunt are still there and they're competitive, and one of them goes down or they're not competitive and they're just sort of playing it out, Johnson is kind of interesting in those late weeks. So I was thinking the same way. Like, you've just got to be so different to have any chance. But at the same time, not get too crazy along the way. You can still benefit from winning your group and then the next group, maybe a little bit like Scott Fishbowl. Only a longer regular season and, $2 million for first place. Okay, let's move a little faster. So tough teams to figure out. Football guys starting, Best-Ball Mania happening, Dynasty 2. Who's a team that you're having a tough time figuring out how to handle?
Yeah, I think so. The teams that I've when you pose this question, I'm like, well, what are the teams that I'm not drafting a lot of guys from? Because those are kind of the teams where they're tough to figure out. So I just kind of don't draft the players, because the ones that I think I have figured out, I'm drafting them more, right? So, and I'm looking at, I don't have a lot of the New York Jets, and I have a lot of Breece Hall because I was taking him before he got drafted for the Jets, and then even now, especially an underdog, you can get him at like the 4 or 5 turn, and in a lot of these drafts. So I'm taking him a lot there. But the receivers, it's just with Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis, who was pretty good last year, had a pretty good rapport with Zach Wilson. I mean, he wasn't nothing, and he's still there, and he's getting paid pretty well. I think he's going to get targets. So, like, what to do with them? And I feel like Elijah Moore flashed and was really good last year from like a metrics perspective, and he's got that extra year with Zach Wilson. But Garrett Wilson was my favorite receiver in the draft coming out. And so, I mean, and they're both the same type of receiver, right? They're both smaller route runners, run after catch, quick guys. I just don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to divvy those up, how they're going to call those plays. And I don't think the Jets are very good. So I just tend to just avoid the whole situation because I don't think, like, unless there's a major injury to Moore or Wilson where the other one goes off, I just don't think it's really going to burn me to the point where, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. So I've just been kind of avoiding them.
They have a terrible win total. I could see this year being a lot like last year where they had Davis and Moore was a good player, and Michael Carter, and he's a good player. Wilson was a rookie, but he was so bad, especially under pressure. And I'm not sure that coach knows what he's up to or what he's in for.
Right.
To say with the Jets. So I could easily see them having another year like last year, in which case they're blowing it up. I mean, if that happens again, they're going to take the 3 first-round picks they just made and Elijah Moore and then start over with the rest of it. And that certainly could happen. I mean, if you have a win total of 5.5, that's what's expected of the Jets. That's not necessarily terrible for fantasy. There is a pretty comfortable Zach Wilson argument, except you just have to hold on tight to the bar with how he looked last year. Michael Carter is interesting. He's completely erased from our consciousness with the Breece Hall pick and the rest of it, but he can still do it. And in Dynasty, depending on how cheap he is, I like the idea.
And quick on Michael Carter, right? It's because he's, we're a big fan of Michael Carter. It's amazing. I didn't have a lot of him pre-draft because I was afraid something like this might happen. But now at post-draft, I mean, you can get him whenever you want. I mean, 11th round, 12th. I've seen him go, it gets to the point where it's like, all right, Devin Singletary's gone, Cook's gone. You're getting into like the backup handcuff rookie running backs. And that's where Michael Carter's going. And it's like, man, Carter has already played in the NFL. We've seen he was pretty good. He was an RB2 when he went down. Obviously he's more of a handcuff. He's not a straight up play. He's going to be a backup to Breece Hall. But if Breece Hall goes down, Carter's proven he can do it. So I think I've been drafting him way more reluctantly, but I've been drafting him way more than I was before the NFL draft.
There's still a chance he plays like a third down role there. And if they're not terrible, maybe that becomes something usable. If Hall gets hurt, it certainly does. Breece Hall or Ramondre Stevenson? I'm sorry, Michael Carter.
I was going to say
Breece Hall. Part B, Michael Carter or Ramondre Stevenson?
Yeah. Probably Ramondre, just because Ramondre's proven to be a workhorse. Like when Damian Harris was out for a week. Ramondre had 3 first half touchdowns against somebody one game. He went crazy. Like
Jacksonville, maybe they won 51-0.
That was probably it. And just and I had him on a bunch of teams that year. I remember starting him, and that's to me, it's such a side note. That's like the funnest thing about fantasy is when you like have a backup running back and you start him on a lark, or like you need to start him and he goes crazy. It feels so good. But yeah, I would go with Ramondre Stevenson.
Did you watch the playoff game between the Bills and the Patriots?
I caught a little bit of that. Yes.
It was 50-10. Can you imagine the losing team from that playoff game winning a game against anybody 50-10? Because that actually happened. New England
Right.
lost, was it whatever it was, 47-17 in the playoff game, and then 50-10 they beat Jacksonville like 3 weeks earlier.
And then the Bills
Anyway.
lost to Jacksonville. Somebody explain that one.
And the Bills lost to Jacksonville. I know why, because I was in Hawaii. I was not here to help.
That's right. That's right.
AFC East running back draft.
Ooh.
4 rounds, you and me. Go. We want first or second?
Are we going right now?
Yeah, right now.
I want to go first.
All right, go.
Breece Hall.
I'll take. Oh, that's such a good pick, right?
It's the only pick.
Is anybody listening and watching go, oh my God, who would I take? Because that's what I'm doing, and I'm hosting the thing with you. Let's see what happens if I go Cook and Singletary.
Oh, I forgot you get to go back and back. I'm going to go. What would I do in a regular draft? I guess I would go
I could get
Damian Harris. I would go Damian Harris. And then I would go Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh, Edmonds.
I know.
A steal at
what that was
3-2.
That was a steal.
And I would go Michelle or Carter. And Carter.
Yeah, no, that's it. If you didn't take Carter, I was going to take Carter, and I'm done drafting. That's it. There's nobody.
You don't even want the last pick.
I don't even want the last pick. I don't even need it. I've got Breece Hall.
Sony Michelle or Kevin Harris.
They got to cut somebody from the Dolphins eventually. It's
not going to be, well, yes, it's not going to be Edmonds.
No.
Tough teams to figure out. Miami is a little bit tough to figure out, but I'll go Cleveland. It's a little bit obvious since we're in the AFC. Deshaun Watson at Fantasy Mojo, Adam, is quarterback 15 right now, and that's in the best ball tournament streets, I believe. I want to check that before I ask you the question. Yes, it is. Roger Goodell today said we're close. You know, he's probably lying because he's usually probably lying. He said we're close on an outcome on Watson. Well, he just tells you he doesn't know. If it's something that's uncomfortable, he just tells you he doesn't know. I don't know anything about whether Daniel Snyder is being. I haven't read the paper. You know, he's just conveniently oblivious.
Yeah,
which is offensive, especially. You know, when important things happen where people in power really matter and they just can't be moved to action, it just brings to mind all the sports things. Like that's sort of it's my career and it's my life. And I think just how many times people in power in sports cannot be brought to tell you the truth.
Right.
Anyway, sorry for the tangent. Hypothetically, if Watson were to be not suspended, if they were to on Friday, that would only happen on a Friday. Right. He goes from quarterback 15 to quarterback what?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow, I would say Allen, Mahomes, Murray, Lamar. Man, does he go to QB5?
Yes.
Is that what we're thinking?
I think maybe 4.
4.
I don't think he passes Allen or Mahomes or Herbert. He could get to 3, but I think Jackson, what happened last year, uncertainty about that offense. He's not signed. We'll see if he shows up for stuff. Like there's a little bit of question on him. Just that. Murray isn't there. A little bit of a question. And if Watson were locked into a situation without that question, then he's almost the equivalent of those guys, maybe even higher. So I think 3 or 4.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I don't like Kyler Murray, but I really want to like him this year. I was ready to love it. And then, the DeAndre Hopkins thing happened. It's like, oh man, but I still think like quarterbacks don't like Kyler Murray can stay afloat running around scoring fantasy points while he waits for Hopkins to come back. Like Murray could be from whenever Hopkins comes back to the end of the year, was it week 6? He could be week 7, the number QB1 the rest of the year after that. So Kyler Murray is a guy that I really want to be on. We need to do a show on quarterbacks because I've got a lot of stuff I've been researching and doing. So maybe we'll do a QB show next week. But yeah, no, Watson, that would be so great for fantasy too. Then Amari Cooper's up there and Deshaun Watson adds another quarterback to the mix. And Who I don't know. Who else? Peoples Jones.
I have a top 3 Browns players I like drafting from 3 to 1. Just outside the top 3 is David Njoku. Great athlete.
Yep.
Paid him. Maybe it pops. Tight ends take a while. Be open to the possibility, at least, that Njoku, who we've always liked as a player, actually rates. For tight end, he's got to be consistent, and that's so seemingly unattainable for so many players. But number 3, I'm going to go with Dearness Johnson, who I said last round of the deep dive tournament stuff. I think that does make sense. Number 2, I'm going David Bell.
Yes, I like David Bell. Yep.
The prospect, the fit with Watson especially. Landry obviously is gone, and they're so light at receiver otherwise. And then 1, my favorite player to draft on Cleveland. Should I have picked this first? Decided this first?
I don't know. Who is it?
Chubb.
Chubb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's great.
He's so great. If they got to get rid of Hunt. If they can get rid of Hunt, I would think that Chubb would maybe get more of the passing down work. I just, I haven't taken a ton of him, but I could see. I also haven't had a top pick very often to get him on the wrap there, the 2-3. But no, makes sense. Makes sense. Another team that I've got, my NFC team, is the Eagles. And not because I don't like these guys, but because I just don't know what the Eagles are yet. Are they hey, we're gonna pass the ball? We want to. That's why we went and got AJ Brown, because Jalen Hurts was not efficient last year. The team was much better when they started running the ball like crazy. But then okay, let me start over. If I think they're going to pass like crazy, I still don't know. What am I doing? We got Goddard, right? We got AJ Brown. We got Devonta. So it's like, what receiver do we love? Oh no, never mind. They're not going to throw. They're going to run. Okay, well, is it Miles Sanders? Because they ran last year. Miles Sanders never scored. It's going to be Jalen. Is it going to be just Jalen Hurts? Like, is Jalen Hurts the guy to draft? The answer is probably that. So it's a team that I haven't really honed in on. AJ Brown, every time he's on the board, I either pass, I'm looking at T. Higgins, I'm looking at some other players there. And so it's a team I haven't quite figured out yet, but I like a lot of those players in a vacuum.
Well, what night was it where I showed you my FFPC board and I had all of them? That was
that's the other way to do it. Take them all.
Yeah. I don't think what I would say is I don't think there's a really bad play there.
Sure.
If you're limiting to AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard, Sanders, Hurts, I don't think I want Boston Scott. I want Gainwell for depth in Dynasty because he's a little bit of a player, I think. But if that's my 5-6 player core right there, I don't think there's a really bad play anywhere there. AJ Brown, I don't love for the price because new team and then the physical. I keep coming back to why we didn't pick him in that 1K with Billy was knees. And, he's very young, and he's great. But I think there often is a better play there in drafts than AJ Brown. Still, love the player that he is. Love the fact that he and Jalen Hurts are best friends, and all that.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith is really good. Goddard, I think, is good. The tight end point. How old is that guy? 26?
Right.
Goddard?
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
The Sanders touchdown thing is a joke. Every good fantasy player knows to bet against that.
Yep.
And Hurts is in a good situation with the same coach. Anyway, so I'm fine with all of them, really, is what it comes down to. Fine with all of them.
Yeah, and again, the Jets were tough to figure out. I didn't like any of them, whereas the Eagles are tough to figure out because I just don't know. I like to be locked in on guys, and I can't lock in on any of them yet.
They're not the deepest team to build a stack around in an underdog draft, a Best-Ball Mania draft. They're not the deepest because at wide receiver, Zach Pascal, you're going to get to pretty soon, and I don't know. It's got to be Gainwell if you're going to get a little bit deep on the Eagles. So there are teams maybe like Denver where it's easier to go longer. I'll pick one more, NFC East, also Washington.
Yeah.
I think Washington is really good at the skills. I mean, Gibson is really good. McLaurin is great. Dotson is a top half of the first round pick. I'm, using that term because he was 16th.
Yeah.
But Dotson and, even Samuel, like, that's a good group at wide receiver. Is there someone I'm forgetting there?
Yeah, Jahani or whatever. What's his name? I can't even think of his name. Who was the receiver that you loved to take there last year?
Oh, Diami Brown?
Diami Brown. I'm thinking Jahani Dotson.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Diami Brown. There's your
Like,
hey, did you see Curtis Samuel cutting in the rain today? A nice little
it wasn't much. It wasn't
he didn't
much.
pull his groin. He's good to go.
But I don't know. See, I have two minds about Wentz. One is he's finally at a point where he can just sort of wing it, which is kind of the only reason he had any success in the league in the first place, which was just third down red zone and just big sort of weird looking plays. Maybe that can happen for him in Washington. And the talent is so good there that, okay, like I want to try it. But on the other hand, he's so bad. His accuracy is so bad that maybe it all blows up. So Washington is an enigma for me. I sort of want to be on. I'm certainly on McLaurin, in several of these drafts. The one we did last week also, I went with McLaurin. I think he's just great. So he's also got to be a cut above the other receivers on his team, which I'm not sure he is for target share. I think he could be. And so anyway, this is why Washington is tough for me.
Yeah, it's I'm just looking at ADP here for the Football Guys Championship over at FFPC, and McLaurin's going, 4.9. I think he's going right next to DJ Moore as receiver there, Amari Cooper, Allen Robinson, Godwin, Mike Williams. So, I mean, I just have never McLaurin reminds me a lot of DJ Moore, who's right next to him. Like, they're just great receivers who are just not transcendent enough to really thrive consistently without a good quarterback, which is not a knock on them. Like, most receivers aren't, but like until they get a competent quarterback for either of them, it's just, I never think that they're going to punish me. Right. I'll have some McLaurin, I'll have some DJ Moore. But like, I would rather have Robinson 4 or 5 picks later in the same kind of range, because I know he has a superstar quarterback with a coach that can dial up any play he wants, and so it's just, they're guys I'm going to end up taking reluctantly. I just wish they could get somewhere else, and they will eventually. I hope McLaurin doesn't re-sign there. Like, he wants it's like, just hit the free agent market, my guy, and go play with somebody else.
Got to wrap it up right here, Adam. We'll get to the wheel on Thursday. Thanks for watching Thursday Night Deep End Dynasty as well. Send us your comments at DeepEndFF1. Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.